need a formal conspiracy when interest
All right, guys, we're going to be trying something a little bit new today. I want to do a new sort of segment for the channel that is a little bit more than just reacting to TikToks. It's still going to be largely reaction-based content, you know, watching content created by others and adding my own commentary. Apologies for that bad timing, that car alarm going off in the background. I'm going to be creating this new segment for the channel. I'll continue to do short form reactions. I'm going to try and limit my commentary there so that I can provide more exposure to the TikToks. I think that's where the real value is when we're talking about the type of content that is typically TikTok-based reactions to short-form content. There are a lot of channels out there that do this type of content, and I think the real value add there for the audience, for you guys, is exposure to those TikToks. I know a lot of people don't like TikTok app. There's issues with, you know, data tracking and whatnot. Myself, I didn't use the app for many years, and loved reaction channels for that reason. So I want to limit that segment of my channel to less commentary and more TikToks, right? More exposure to the TikToks, because that's where I think the real value add is. And I want to start shifting my commentary to this segment of my channel, which is going to be about more about long form content, and also my commentary on that content, and give me more space to talk. Because as you know, if you've watched any of my videos at this point, I talk a lot. So watching a 2-minute TikTok and then listening to me talk for 5 minutes doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So that commentary should be very limited. You know, a 2-minute TikTok should only really, have about 30 seconds worth of commentary. And so that's really the model I'm going to go for over there. Here, it's going to be a lot more free flowing. So I'm going to open up the space to really talk about anything. And it's going to be a little bit more in depth on specific topics. And the topic we're going to start with is a little bit niche, potentially, one that is new for me. I discovered this video literally last night, and I was like, this is really interesting, and it might be a good practice run for this new content. Eventually, I think I'm going to develop more of a schedule of content that I want to get through. I have a lot of different ideas, but this is really about today's video, and we're not going to finish the video that I'm going to watch in one session. It's going to be multiple sessions, more than likely. The video itself is about an hour and 45 minutes, and we're probably only going to get through about 10 or 15 minutes of it at a time due to my commentary on top of that, to make roughly 35 minute videos for me to post. So it's going to take us a few weeks, I think, to get through this video, but it's going to be a good practice run for setting up this segment in terms of just getting comfortable with the format, the editing, and everything. And then we'll move into some other topics. And like I said, hopefully want to develop sort of a schedule of content so that the audience will know what's coming and can also offer some suggestions. And ultimately, this segment of the channel, I want it to really become the backbone of what we do. I want the reaction stuff to be more about entertainment. That's where the fun is going to be. And then, frankly, also a lot of the marketing of the channel is going to come from there probably. And then this is where the real sort of substantive, comprehensive sort of discussion-based content is going to take place, that I hope leads into more of an in-depth conversation between me and the audience, to the extent that I have one. I don't know that I do, but hopefully I'll be building that over time. And so these are the topics that I want to lead into the Discord, where we can continue conversations on the Discord, where, maybe we can set up live streams where, you guys are reacting to my content, and then, we're having debates or conversations and discussions. I don't know where it might go. I'm very open-ended on that stuff, but this is where I want the more substantive types of conversations to be happening. And like I said, leaving the short form stuff for entertainment. So with all that being said, Today's topic, again, is a warm-up topic that is a little bit niche, but like I said, new to me and I thought was very interesting. And it's on Jeffrey Epstein, but specifically a club that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. And I think it's called The Box. Yeah, it's called, the club is in New York, and it's called The Box. And apparently Jeff was a funder of this club and a frequent guest. And it's one of these eyes wide shut, adult style content parties that also skewed into the borderline illegal place. Allegedly, all of this is alleged. All of this is not true. All of this is for entertainment purposes. In the case of The Box specifically, they are apparently, I could be wrong about this, involved in some lawsuits with various people who have come out with some investigative journalism around them. So we have to treat this with a little bit of delicacy, and the video will talk about that. But it's a new piece of the Epstein story that I'm unfamiliar with. And I think it's really interesting because one of the things that I think is so important about Epstein that often, in my opinion, gets overlooked, that I think if I can provide any value in terms of contributing to the Epstein narrative, is to point this out, is the culture, right? I think that what we see in the Epstein emails is very similar to what was seen in the Podesta emails that was around the Pizzagate stuff. And it establishes, I think, in my opinion, at this point you have established a pretty well-established case of a culture around these people, whoever they are, right? Like whoever they may be. Epstein's at the center of a lot of it, but it includes a lot more than him. But it's not just Epstein, there's other people, and specifically what we see in the emails is the language, right? And so I've talked about that before in some of my other videos. What does pizza mean? They use this coded language a lot across decades, across people, across different email drops that we've had access to. And that's what I'm getting at when I say culture, right? If you apply it to other things that people might be able to relate to, talk about, illicit substances and the cultures that crop up around that, right? Like a lot of us who are older remember a time when the outlook on things like trees, right? Smoking trees. I don't know what language we can use on YouTube. I'm still learning about that. So, just the word trees, right? Everyone knows what I'm saying when I talk about that, right? But there's a whole language and a culture that got developed around that. It's called counterculture, right? Like the hippies, and it goes way beyond just the tree stuff. There's more to it than that, but a culture gets developed, right? Like when you want to purchase an illegal substance, you don't wear a business suit and walk up to a random stranger on the street and say, "Hello, sir, may I purchase $100 worth of illegal substances from you?" That's ridiculous, right? A coded language is used, often includes certain type of way to dress, a way to speak, a way to act, hanging out in certain places, depending on how illegal the activities that you're doing, right? Buying trees is not that hard. Buying fentanyl used to be, right? I don't know about nowadays, but that's what I'm talking about when we talk about culture, right? And I think you see that in the language across the Podesta and the Epstein email drops. And I think that when I say Podesta, I'm talking about I think that's the WikiLeaks, right? I'm sure there's people who know a lot more about it than I do, but we got a big email drop from WikiLeaks around Podesta. I think it was largely Podesta that included all the pizza talk. If you go back farther than that, it was stuff that even the FBI was talking about way before the WikiLeaks drops. And then you have the Epstein emails, and the same coded language is used across all of these instances. Excuse me. And that's what I mean when we talk about a culture. And I think that this article with this club called the Box is another layer to this culture argument that I want to add to the Epstein story. In that, similarly, if you are the type of person who is, hanging out, smoking a lot of pot, you tend to hang out with a lot of potheads, you tend to hang out in certain places, you tend to go to certain places, even if you're not involved with that, right? If you're someone who likes to drink, you're going to frequent certain types of bars. There are certain types of drinking, even. If you're into drinking culture, there's a culture around drinking, right? Are you the type of drinker who goes to a dive bar? Do you like high-end cocktail bars? Are you a seen and be seen type of person? Or are you a leave me alone so I can drink seriously type of person? Right? Like there's different ways to drink and go out and have fun. Are you going out to have fun? Or are you going out with a group? Or are you going by yourself just to have a quick few beers because you need to relax? Look, there's a culture around that. And different people interact with that culture in different ways. And I think that as we develop this idea of a culture around the quote unquote Epstein class, for lack of a better term, language is a piece of it. And another piece of it is something like the Box. These people would have had to have had places to hang out, to not only to engage in these types of activities, but to interact with each other in a safe manner, right? Like, again, if you're a drinker, often people don't want to drink alone. Some people do, and there's that type of drinking too. But that's why bars exist, because it's more fun to do it together, right? Like if you were smoking pot by yourself, again, a lot of people do that as well, but a lot of people like to do it with each other, right? It's a communal activity, and hanging out with other people who are into the same hobbies and subjects and topics and activities and illicit activity as you are. Is a lot more comfortable way to engage in that activity if you're going to do it with other people. And so I think that's really what this story, I think, contributes to the Epstein story, is adding another layer to this idea of a culture around the Epstein class. And so that's why I want to start with this, because, like I said, it's new to me, and I think it adds a layer to the onion of this culture idea that I think is something that's missing from the Epstein story. A lot of people have done a lot of incredible work, a lot more in-depth work than I do. This is something that I may not even come up with, right? I'm not even saying I'm the first person to come up with the idea of culture on the Epstein class. I'm sure there's other people who have said it as well. So I'm not going to take a lot of credit here. This is just an idea that I've been thinking about for a little while now, and I want to share it with you all to try and generate some conversation and hopefully get this idea out there a little bit, because I think it's a very compelling piece of evidence that gets dismissed often, is the fact that we're witnessing a culture develop around this. What does that suggest? What is the so what of the culture argument? The so what, and what this suggests, is that this is far more impactful or far more pervasive than just one guy. You don't get a culture if it's just Epstein running around doing this stuff. You don't get a culture if it's just one dude being a weirdo. That doesn't result in a culture developing. You need a lot of people involved. You need a lot of people in the know. You need a lot of people engaging this kind of stuff in order for a culture to develop around it. And so I think that's something that doesn't get spoken about enough. And so that's why I want to look at this more in depth. So with that being said, this video is by the YouTube channel, and I'm going to drop all of this in the description below. It's called The Conspiracy Files. I really like this guy. He's been around for a little while. This video that we're going to watch today dropped July 2nd, 2026. But The Conspiracy Files, I'm going to try and be good about doing this. I'm not going to promise I won't forget, but I'm going to try and be good about doing this. A little bit of an introduction to who's done the creation of the content, to give credit where credit's due. And The Conspiracy Files, I've discovered them, I think, probably in the last year or so. Yeah, it looks like his channel started on June 10th, 2024. So a couple years old. It's got about 218 videos. 466,000 subscribers, 33.8 million views. So well-established channel here. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen him. Long-haired blonde guy. And does really good content, really high-quality content. And I'm a big fan of what he does and what he puts out there. He's actually done some investigations. He does a lot of different things, which I like. It's not just the conspiracy stuff. He does kind of true crime. He does kind of true crime bordering on paranormal and stuff like that. He did an investigation out by Lake Berryessa, which I grew up in the Bay Area. Lake Berryessa is sort of North Bay, I guess. I don't know. You may not consider it Bay Area, but it's north of the Bay Area where I grew up. And so I thought that was cool. And that's where the killer that they never figured out, where's the black mask with the pentagram. I can't believe the killer, serial killer. I gotta look this up. Serial killer from the 60s in San Francisco. It's like the Zodiac. I was gonna say the Signs of the Stars. The Zodiac killer was based in San Francisco and did one of his unalivings. I should probably be careful with my language. Happened at Lake Berryessa, and so I remember him doing an investigation out there. So he does a lot of different content. I think the channel is fantastic. It will be linked in the description down below, so go give him a follow. Like I said, the video we're going to be watching today is called The Epstein Club, subtitle, The Most Disturbing Deep Dive on YouTube, published July 2nd, 2026. It's already got about 210,000 views in only a handful of days. So some great traction there. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long. So we're going to work through this in a series of videos where I'm going to react and add some of my own commentary to it. And he himself is reacting to, which he will describe in the video, an article by a gentleman named Jamie Crawford, and it's published on their Substack. So I'll make sure to include a link in the description as well for that. And he's the one who's done all the real investigative work on this. So all the credit here goes to Jamie Crawford. And I mentioned that there were some lawsuits involving the box. Those lawsuits, I believe, are against Jamie Crawford. I could be wrong there, but as far as I know, I think that's the case. So a lot of the real on-the-ground, nitty-gritty, risk-taking work was done by Mr. Crawford. So all the credit to him. And we thank him for that work that he's doing. This is important. Like I said, it adds a piece to the puzzle that really colors in a component of the narrative that I think is so often dismissed, and that's the culture around the Epstein class. So with all of that being said, let's dive into the Epstein Club, the most disturbing deep dive on YouTube.
We always hear stories about parties hosted by the rich and elite members of society, and especially when you bring Jeffrey Epstein and his list of goons into the mix. When you hear about a Jeffrey Epstein party or a Diddy party, you imagine people wearing bizarre masks,
so I'm re-recording this
men and women dancing
small
on
section
stages,
here because I was actually watching it with
right in the centers
no
of
headphones
rooms.
on.
We're
You
talking
get the double
almost
audio.
like rituals of some sort, theatrical displays of sexuality and the act of masquerading. These parties hosted by some of these individuals are some of the darkest events you can possibly imagine. I mean, I interviewed a woman last year about what she saw at a Diddy party, and she described basically a massive group of and half adults, all sweaty, rubbing up and down on each other, with children in one corner of the room standing on a platform dancing. So that's the kind of world that these sick individuals live in. But what if I told you that recently a club in New York City has been linked to Jeffrey Epstein in many different ways, and the stories surrounding this place are so disturbing in a way that you may think that they're fiction? Well, today we're talking about the infamous New York...
That point that he just said, thinking this being so hard to believe that you might think it's fiction, is another big reason why I want to talk about this. Is I want to try and add as much additional context as possible from a couple of different perspectives. One, from all the time I've spent researching these topics and consuming this type of content. I think I have obviously not an expertise, but a decent enough body of knowledge to know enough to be able to talk about this, contextualize it across events, across history, and across a broader body of knowledge than just this one event. But also, I think in this particular case, I have some unique experiences that I think can add additional context as well, that can help people who don't have those experiences wrap their head around it a little bit more. Specifically, what I'm talking about is like living in places like New York. I actually lived in New York for about 4 years. It doesn't make me special. I mean, my friends would tell you I talk about it too much, but I love the city. It's awesome. It's the best city in the country. I won't hear anything otherwise, right? This is not a debatable topic for this channel. New York is the best city in the U.S. That's a fact. Leave any other opinions on that topic to the side. Great city, and I can add some color to it for anyone who hasn't lived in a big city. New York's not the only big city I have experience with. I grew up in the Bay Area, very near San Francisco. Spent a lot of time there. I was also involved in what we might call counterculture to a certain extent, going to nothing like what's being talked about here, but underground parties, raves, and stuff like that in the 2000s and the 2010s. So I have some experiences that if you've never lived in places like this and never been to parties like that, it may be difficult for you to go, is this even possible? And I'm not saying I've seen or experienced or witnessed anything even close to what's going to be talked about here, but I have seen and experienced and witnessed some things that others haven't. And it's a small step on a vast scale that may help contextualize this for some people. And so I think that I can add some unique context to this story specifically, which is another reason why I wanted to talk about it.
And its alleged connections to the Epstein network. There are some really disturbing allegations found in this report that I'm about to read to you. And let me tell you, once you hear all of this, you will never be able to unhear it. And I think it's important we go through this stuff because nothing's happening.
None of that footage was that provocative, but it's crazy that there is footage out there. And it's crazy, this article by Jamie Crawford, published on April 28th, 2026. So this is relatively new, a couple months old. We're filming this today. I'm filming this video today on July 9th. It'll probably won't get published until next week at the earliest. So this story is only a couple months old at this point, right? A few months old at this point. Why haven't we heard about this before? If there's footage available, where'd that footage come from? That's just so curious to me. Like, why isn't this more broadly known? And I wonder what other kind of footage is out there. Because, I mean, if you've never seen it, the footage of Bohemian Grove, which is actually, there's a clip of it in my intro from the Alex Jones documentary, and others have a bunch of footage from Bohemian Grove now as well. The footage of the cremation of care, though, from Alex Jones' documentary from back in the day is super interesting, to me anyways. And just to see it with your own eyes, I think is the most bizarre part. What we saw here in these short clips, like I said, not too provocative, but it makes me wonder if there's any other footage out there that might be available from inside the box at more provocative events. Because that would be really interesting to get your hands on and see for yourself, because there's nothing like seeing it for yourself.
He's been arrested. No one's being investigated. The Epstein network, Epstein and all of his cronies, they're still being allowed to get away with it. And that doesn't sit right with me. As always, though, all parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. All opinions presented on today's show are solely mine, Colin Brown, host and producer of The Conspiracy Files. I don't want to go anywhere or do anything to myself. And if you want to check all of this out for yourself, I'm going to link myself and host and producer of the All opinions presented on today's show are solely mine, Colin Brown.
I wanted to rewind there just to get his name. Colin Brown is the name of the gentleman who runs the Conspiracy Files YouTube channel. So go give him a follow and a like.
The producer of the Conspiracy Files. I don't want to go anywhere or do anything to myself. And if you want to check all this out for yourself, I'm going to link the Substack article that we're talking about today in the description of this video. I highly recommend you go check it out and check out all the hyperlinks for yourself, because this is a truly explosive report. Anyways, y'all, thanks for tuning in. My name's Colin Brown, and welcome to the Conspiracy Files. Let's do a deep dive.
I think we're going to end it there for today. Just a quick intro on the video and what we're going to be getting into on this series. Like I said, really just laying the groundwork with this episode. That's a great place to stop, I think, for now, before we jump into the more meatier stuff. But we're only a couple minutes into the actual video, so this is going to be a long series. As you can tell, I talk a lot, and I'm going to be adding a lot of commentary as we go. It's really going to be using the videos and the content that we'll be watching as a jumping off point for me to add my own commentary and color to the broader story. And like I said, this one, I feel very strongly about being able to add a couple of different points that I think are important. Really, having some unique experiences that I think relate to this story to a certain extent, and then really wrapping it all up into this culture argument that I think is something that should be included in the Epstein story that isn't talked about enough. So that's what this is all going to be really about. So we're going to end it there for today. Like I said, really just laying the groundwork for the moment, and we'll jump into the series more seriously on the next episode. So please like, subscribe, comment down below. What are your thoughts on all this? The description of the video will include all of the links. Feel free to go and check it out on your own. But please, if you're interested in this stuff, come back and join us for this series of videos and become a part of the conversation. I really enjoy that. Thanks again for all the engagement. We'll see you next time. Thanks.